you have to press it.
Loads of time.
Oh. Press it.
Loads of time.
Oh.
would hope that what we say tonight might be helpful in stopping us from the wanton, brutal destruction that we are engaged in. I want us to stop the killing. You say, well, Brother Farrakhan, I'm not involved in killing anybody. I wouldn't be too sure of that. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that whenever a prophet or messenger of God appears in the world, it's not because things are right. It's because things are wrong and very wrong. The prophet of God is called in scriptures the star of God. He is God's sheriff. He is the guardian of God's law. He comes to a lawless people to establish law, to arrest their criminal behavior, to lock up their pent up and exposed frustrations. He comes to slow down their headlong rush into the grave. He's the star of God. He's God's sheriff. He has the right and authority to deputize others to aid him against the lawbreaker. Now, I'm not a prophet. I represent God's messenger to black people. He deputized me and authorized me to act on his behalf and on God's behalf, to stand up for God's law in the midst of a lawless society. He has asked me to help to reform black people, to put us in a position where God will favor us, and to get us out of a path where God will destroy us because we are not justifying our existence. Everything in creation justifies its existence by being in accord with the law under which it is created. The sun justifies its existence by being the sun. The moon justifies its existence. The birds, the bees, the fleas, the ants, every life form justifies its existence by fulfilling what God intended for it to be. Well, what did God intend for man and woman? Did he intend for us to live on the level of the lower animals? Then if we are living on the level of the lower animals, we have not justified our existence. And if we do not justify our existence, we cannot justify feeding from a universe that justifies its existence. And so poverty and want and loss will continue to follow us until we recognize that we are not what Allah intended for us to be. Then we must make a change. The Holy Quran teaches that Allah will never change the condition of a people until they change their hearts or until they change themselves. God is not going to favor you or me or us until we put ourselves in a position to be favored by him. So in order to get his favor, you have to get off the path of disfavor and be guided to the right path, the path upon whom or which God bestows his favor. You are not being favored today. Our community is steadily going down, steadily going backward. We are suffering greater and greater loss when we should be advancing, making greater gains. But we need to stop and examine what has gone wrong with us. And if we can examine our own conduct with the light of truth, then change in our heart, change our direction, and start moving in a right direction, then favor will take the place of loss. Favor will take the place of ruin and disgrace. Upliftment will take the place of abasement. Honor will be bestowed instead of dishonor. But the burden is not on somebody else to make the change. The burden is on you and me and us. But who will point it out? Who will say to us what needs to be said without tickling our ears to make us feel good when we're not good at all? Who will tell us the truth, not out of dislike for us, but out of love and deep concern for the ruin, the loss, the disgrace, the destruction that is the daily life activity of the black community? God's apostle stands as the sheriff. And I want to deputize each one of you tonight to help us in the war against lawlessness, crime, violence, and that each one of us as a deputy of God should know how to stop the killing. And it doesn't start with somebody else. It doesn't start with the gangbanger down the street. It starts with you, with me, with us. You say, wait a minute, man. I ain't never killed nobody. I gonna start with me. Maybe due to ignorance, you're killing yourself. Maybe due to ignorance, you have become a participant in a conspiracy to destroy our community. Maybe through ignorance, you are lending yourself, your talent, your energy, and your money to forces that are destructive of your own community. So maybe we need to have a time of enlightenment that we might stop the killing. Now let's see what death is and what life is. You know, the life principle is based on an attraction to a central force that allows us to live, move, and have our being as we submit to that central force and revolve in an orbit that gives us life. I want you to follow me. The life force causes various different elements to work together for the common good of that life. Whenever death comes to interfere with the force of life, there then is a disintegration which causes the pulling apart of that which once was attracted to a center. Listen. The sun is considered the center of our universe of life and light. The sun, which is not really the center of the universe, but is very near the center. The sun causes 9 planets, different sizes, different colors, different density, different water, different life, different atmosphere, but all of these planets are in the circle of life of the sun. The sun magnetizes them, draws them, keeps them in an orbit that allows the sun to give them life, light, energy, and empowers each planet to live according to the nature under which it is created. Now, in the life of human beings, the center of our life must never be ourselves. If you are the center of your life and your whole life activity revolves around your own personal vanities or desires, then your life is not living according to the living principle. Your life is a life of vanity. Therefore, that is considered the life that is death to the human spirit. The center of every human being's life must be the originator of that life. Listen. Since we are not the originator of our own life, then that one who is the originator not only of our life, but everything in creation that serves our life should be the center of our devotion and thought and focus. Are you listening? Since He, Allah, gives life, is the author of life, then the power to move in the living sphere should come from Him and our focus on Him. Are you listening? This is why a Muslim says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I bear witness there is no God but Allah. There is no force, no power in the universe, in the heavens above or in the earth beneath, that I will bow down to or worship. I will worship nothing. I will worship no one but the power of the one true God. He is the center of my life. In Him I live, I move, and I have my existence. In Him, not in myself, not in my mother, not in my father, not in my wife, not in my friends, not in my position, not in the worldly things, not in the government of America, but in God and in God alone do I live, move, and have my existence. So, my first duty is not to the government. I can't pledge allegiance to the flag above allegiance to God. God and in God alone do I live, move, and have my existence. So, My first duty is not to the government. I can't pledge allegiance to the flag above allegiance to God. The flag did not create me. The flag did not give me my existence. The flag is not the author of my life. The flag did not create me in the womb of my mother. The flag did not know me when I was a sperm. The flag did not evolve me to a clot, to an embryo and a fetus. The flag did not put milk in my mother's breast for me to suckle from. The flag did not create the cow from between the blood and the dung that I might find a pure drink agreeable to the drinkers. The flag did not create the bee who goes from flower to flower, then makes honey a healing for the diseases of men. The flag did not create the corn or the wheat from which I get my daily bread, but Allah the Creator did. So when I pledge allegiance, my allegiance first, foremost, should be to God. And when you say, I will love God with all my heart, all my soul, and all my mind, then don't you ever open your mouth to ask me to give my all to that has not given a damn thing to the black man. The best that I can do is give respect to the flag, because it represents a sovereign, independent nation which we one day hope to be. But allegiance belongs to God. Reverend, dear Reverend, when you say that Jesus gave the first commandment, love God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind, and the second is like unto it, love your neighbor as yourself, then a wise man in the audience said to Jesus, who is my neighbor? Jesus didn't say, your neighbor is the man next door. Jesus gave them a parable. He said a man was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. And on the way, he fell among thieves who robbed him of his raiment, hit him in the head, and left him half dead, wounded in the road. Along came a priest, and he passed by on the other side. Along came a Levite. He came and looked at him, shook his head, showed compassion, but didn't do anything for the man. But the Good Samaritan, notice he said the Good Samaritan. You don't have to use the adjective good to describe the Samaritan, except that the rest of them weren't so good. But he was a Good Samaritan. How do you know he's good? He ain't good because he looked good. He's not good because he talked good. He's good because he did good. He came to the man that was wounded, and he poured oil in his wound. He bound up his wound. He put him on a beast and took him to an innkeeper and gave the innkeeper some money and said, if it's more than what I have given you on my return, I will repay you. But look after this man until he's nurtured back to health. Which one? Which one of these did the neighborly thing? It wasn't the priest. He may have had on his collar. He may have had his Bible in his hand. But if the priest walked by on the other side, leaving the man in the road, how in the hell can we call the priest our neighbor, Mr. Multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial hypocrite? You want us to love you, Christian, but the church has passed by on the other side. The black man goes in a nigger and a fool, and he's still the same nigger and fool, only he's a singing nigger, shouting nigger, a running up and down the aisle nigger. He's Bible-toting and Bible-quoting. But the condition of black people is unchanged. The wound in the head of the black man, nobody has poured oil in the wound. The Levitical priests are the Jews. The Jews came closer to us than any other ethnic white people. They looked at us and shook their head and said, it's terrible. But that's not what we need. Somebody to look and say, we have the same suffering. Yeah, but you getting out of yours. What the hell are you doing to help us get out of ours? You are not doing the neighborly thing. You really loved them. If you really cared about this multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic society, don't you see black people wounded? You got oil. God sent Moses, he poured oil in your wound. God sent you the prophets, they poured oil in your wound. But you don't pour oil in the head of the black man. You have never taken him to an innkeeper to nurse him to strength. You didn't do that. You didn't do that. Didn't do that. Our black Christian brothers formed a black Christian church because they were not accepted in the white Christian church, in this multiracial, multi-ethnic, and multicultural society. You hoped that Farrakhan would not preach and would eschew divisiveness. I'll be doggone. You should be ashamed to be such a hypocrite. We didn't know nothing about Baptists. The Baptists was started in Europe. We didn't know nothing about Luther. Lutheranism started in Europe. Calvinism started in Europe. Come on. We didn't know anything about Methodism. That started in Europe. We didn't know nothing about Catholicism. You had your division between Greece and Rome, Constantinople and Rome. We were in Africa minding our business. We didn't know nothing about that. When the Roman church broke off from the Greek Orthodox church, we had nothing to do with that. When we became your slaves, you then introduced us to your faith. So if our master was a Catholic, we became that. We had many Jewish masters, but we never became Jews. Because they never invited us to the synagogue. We never knew anything about Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, Seder. We didn't know anything about your religion. You kept it from us. It served you, but you wouldn't give us oil. Go ahead. Tell me I'm a liar. Tell me that I'm anti-Semitic because I know your history. The real truth is both the white Christians and the Jews have been anti-black, and they're still anti-black to this very moment. When we try to come together to solve our problems, there they'll be picketing. What is wrong with you? This is our family business. You don't want the NAACP to sit down with Farrakhan. What have I done that my own black brothers and sisters shouldn't sit down with me? When you wanted Israel as a state, you sat down with Jewish criminals. Jewish thugs, murderers. You didn't give a damn where you got your money from. I'm not a criminal. I have robbed no man, killed no man, lied on no man, done no man evil. Why can't my own brother sit down with me? You sat down with Bugsy Siegel. You sat down with Dutch Schultz. You sat down with your radicals. Don't tell me the Pope of Rome did not sit down with Cosa Nostra. the church. Why are you frightened at what I'm saying? Why do you look like your heart is about to jump out your chest? Have
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his servant and messenger. I greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, and all of those who are currently tuned in the greeting words of peace. We say it in Arabic, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, 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 dear family, brothers, sisters, friends, and well-wishers, and even the enemies. Welcome to another episode of the Imagination Show. My name is Brother Leo Muhammad, and sitting alongside me is my beloved sister and best friend, Sister Claudia Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum, family. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I'll say it again. I greet you in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you all? I pray to Allah, and I'm going to always say that you're receiving the countless blessings from Almighty God Allah, because we are a blessed people. Although it may not seem it, we are blessed. We have eyes, ears, tongue, hands. We can feel, we can see, the majority of us anyway, but we should always give thanks to Allah for whatever he has blessed us with, from the smallest thing to the largest thing. Always give thanks to Almighty God Allah.
Praise be to Allah. That's right, beloved. Thank you for that. And dear family, welcome once again to the Imagination Show. And as always, I would encourage you to call a friend, a relative, a loved one. Tell them to tune in right now. Imagination is live and direct. We've been on since 6 o'clock. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been speaking on a very, very important subject. And, you know, we are now live and direct, both on Zoom and also on YouTube. And we encourage you to encourage your friends and your relatives and loved ones to, you know, join in, become a part of the Imagination family. Also, brothers and sisters, let us know where you are on the planet, where you are currently viewing us from, and let us know so that we can acknowledge you in the chat. Also, I know that quite a number of you have recently joined and become members of the Imagination family. I'm going to talk about that on another occasion. I really want to big all of you up and really say congratulations and thank you so much for the support, because it's absolutely appreciated. Dear brothers and sisters, today, the weather is beautiful outside here in the United Kingdom. I don't know what it's like where you are, but we are enjoying what looks like summer, one of the 2 or 3 days that we get each and every year in this country. And so go ahead, Sister Claudia.
It's interesting. A lot of our family are from New York. New York.
New York.
Yes.
New York, man. Well, you know, when I went to New York, when I got my ex in 1992, I went to Mosque number 7 and recited there. I found New York kind of like similar to London in terms of the density, how crowded the city was and everything. And, you know, I mean, it was very vibrant, the particular area that we were in there, the Apollo Theater, down that road there and everything. But yeah, it was quite an interesting place.
I did like Harlem. I always found there was a nice vibe. Yes, but I don't know how it is now.
Yeah, and then we went another time. We were in the area called Crown Heights, which was where I had that experience where it was just so strange, where there was this demarcation line. It was like a road, and on one side was black people, and on the other side was Jews. Like Orthodox Jews, and you know, and it was such a strange thing because it just felt like nobody crossed that line. And literally, it was wall to wall Jews on one side and black people on the other side. It was amazing.
And they didn't.
And they didn't mingle. They didn't mingle. And then there was on that particular occasion, it was a carnival,
Mhm.
and we went there and we saw some crazy stuff going on during the day among our people. Some brother running past with his head bleeding, and,
Really?
and then there was like the police
Mhm.
in New York. Man, they were messy.
Really?
Oh, they were messy, Claudia.
Shirts out.
Yeah, they wearing like trainers with a uniform, and some of them the gun, some's got the gun way up here
Mhm.
on the side, then some the gun is sort of hanging down like a old-fashioned gunslinger from the Wild West. Then you got another one, his gun is just in the middle of his
No
crotch.
uniformity.
Yeah, it was just
Not like
it
the
just looked
FOI.
really sloppy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not like the FOI, all
it was
sharp.
quite, yeah. And like the British police back in the day, they had a kind of standard where they presented themselves in a particular way.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed these days is that those standards have all gone now,
Of
and
course.
like I think they're desperate to recruit
Yeah.
people because people don't really want to be in that service.
They're all tattooed up, aren't they? The
They're
police for their
they're
arms and
proper mess
yes,
now.
yes, they are.
You know what I mean? Once upon a time, I think they even had a height restriction. They had to be a certain
Yes,
height
yeah.
to be a policeman. Now, got some
Height, weight,
midget
yes.
kind of looking people. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting, dear family. Go ahead,
Our
sister.
brother Stephen Brown, assalamu alaikum to you, brother. And he says he lives in East Flatbush, which is considered Little Caribbean.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Okay, yeah, I know there's a big Caribbean kind of influence in that city, and Jamaica looms large.
Oh, yes, yes.
As well in certain parts of New York.
And Miami, don't Jamaicans like Miami?
Yes, I went to Miami, but I only stopped there like a little
Passing
stopover.
through.
Yeah. But I'd like to go there and spend some time.
Yeah.
One of these days. But I'm gonna begin this evening, dear family, in a slightly different way. We normally put up the slide that welcomes us. We'll get to that in a second, but I wanted to start like this in truth with this particular image. This is an image of the 24-year-old nephew of one of our brothers in the Nation of Islam community here in the UK, who is laying in a hospital bed in a serious condition after being stabbed 3 times during an argument in the street. According to his uncle, one of our brothers here in our community, he's a talented and gifted young man with huge potential. But unfortunately, despite guidance coming from his uncle and I guess others, including his mother, even, and warnings, he's a young man who makes unwise choices. And so I just wanted to say, we pray that Allah will bless him to make a full recovery. It looks like he may be on that road, inshallah. But I start like this, dear family, because you see, our subject this evening is really going to be looking at, what's happening with the Black family, specifically really here in this country. But I'm coming at it from a particular angle, and that's the angle really of what's happening with our youth, what's happening with our young people out in these streets. You see, because it's all connected, it's all linked. And sometimes what annoys me when I listen to the news and the talk shows and the different things that go on in the society is that everything is compartmentalized. Everything is separate, and we don't do joined up thinking. We don't appreciate just how linked everything is, you see, and how we have to start to look at things in the round in a more holistic way to really understand that we can't see this type of thing happening day in and day out and take it for granted and not appreciate what it's linked to and what's really going on in our society. Go ahead, sister.
Because it's like sometimes when you see really small children and you think, that child is so naughty, but then nobody takes a look at
the question you ask? Yeah. What's
going on at home?
Yeah.
Why is that child so naughty?
Yeah.
Because it's like the child gets just chastisement, or if they're at school, such and such is such a naughty child, you're so bad, blah, blah. but hold on, speak to the parents, find out what is going on at home for that child to behave the way
in that way,
yeah,
in that
because
manner.
I do find it's you just blame the child, you stop there, but what's the root? Go to the root of the problem.
Absolutely. And again, remember that adage that the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree.
That's right.
You can't look at fruit and not appreciate the tree that fruit is coming from.
That's right.
So in relation to the street life of many of our youth, we thought that in today's Imagination show, we might spend the time we have together in a brief examination of what's happening to the Black family. That's what we want to look at, because you see, dear beloved brothers and sisters, if I asked you, which of these pictures do you prefer? A happy husband and wife with 2 children, everybody smiling, a kind of a home.
It looks cozy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'm not suggesting that these brothers are not probably geniuses, not probably beautiful human beings, because you can't just look at somebody and make a judgment.
That's right.
But the point is that, when you look at our youth today, because I can remember growing up, and I know that there was a kind of spirit when I was younger, even though things were bad. When Black people saw one another, we tended to greet one another. There was much more of whereas now, the way we look at each other, just the way you see a lot of the youth are now, man, it leaves a lot to be desired. Go ahead.
But sister. I was going to say some, though, what I'm finding, maybe they're slightly changing that, because some are saying auntie, they're calling us auntie now, whereas before they'd most probably not even acknowledge you. But now some are saying, auntie, how are you? And having a conversation.
Well, it's strange that you should say that, because I was in a little area, the Chalvey area where we live. And I got out of the car. And as I got out of the car, a little young Asian boy, small boy.
Yes.
He said, "Oh, how are you, brother?"
Yes. Yes.
And so that spirit is not necessarily lost. And I told you about the other children who were talking to me the other day, and they were referring to me as sir. And so, I'm not, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to stereotype, but what I'm saying is that there's something going on in the Black community, which is not healthy. It's not wholesome. And I want us to explore a little bit of that this evening. And so today is Thursday, 6th of June, 2024. Is that correct, Sister Claudia? I'm not telling people the wrong date.
Yes.
And we say, welcome to episode 133 of the Image and Nation show. And as I said before, the title today is What's Happening to the Black Family? What is actually happening to the Black family? Because you see, brothers and sisters, nothing is static. Okay, things are just not, where the Black family was 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago is not where we are today. And in truth, we need to ask the question, are we progressing and moving forward?
Yes.
Or are we retarded and moving backwards? Or are we standing still? Because really standing still is just as bad as retardation.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question, because when I was growing up, the road that I lived on, it was like there were families, husband and wives, but it was the domestic violence road. That's what we grew up seeing a lot.
Almost all the women were getting beaten
all
up
the
by
women,
their husbands.
But in my house it was, my dad would try it, but then my mother would fight back. But that's how we all grew up. During that time, seeing a lot of domestic violence. So then, therefore, now I'm growing up, but that's not the case now, because it's a different reality. But then maybe some people still go through that. I can only go by what you grew up experiencing. Yes. So I could say there's a change, because I've I've not gone down that road.
Yes,
You
yes,
see, but it's how people, what they've been through whilst they were growing up.
yeah,
Will they follow that pattern or will they change it?
yeah, yeah.
So what about yourself?
Yeah, well, no, you're absolutely right. You know, again, I've learned a great deal about what was going on with my father, what was going on with my mother, because again, it was a similar type of thing
Yes.
that we went through in our family.
Mhm.
And to be honest with you, having heard, you know, the stories
Mhm.
about what was happening from my father's point of view, from his perspective, whatever. When I heard all of it, I came away somewhat sympathetic,
Mhm.
not in terms of condoning his behavior
Mhm.
or his actions, because
Yes.
he was never there for me and my other siblings. And he was extremely abusive when it came to my mother.
Mhm.
But again, what I came to appreciate and understand was the bigger picture,
Yes.
which was the pressures
Mhm.
that were
Right.
imposed
Right.
on Black men and
Mhm.
Black women
Mhm.
during those formative years.
Yes.
And there's a whole bunch of new pressures
Mhm.
today.
That's right.
And so you know, we've always got to, I think you and I were having a conversation about money
Mhm.
and how we have not allowed
Oh, that was the question.
money. Well, maybe you can read
Yes.
that. We've not allowed money problems
Yes.
to interfere with our relationship, our marriage. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's not the case.
Yeah.
You see, and a lot of problems in relationships don't necessarily stem from the two people,
Mhm.
but quite often it's from outside. It's
forces.
external forces and pressures
Yeah.
that cause them then
That's
to
right.
implode
Yes.
and go to war
Yes.
with one another.
And why is that for us? Why we don't? Is from the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan,
Absolutely.
the teachings.
Absolutely.
That's what saved us
Absolutely.
and is saving us.
Applying the teachings,
Oh.
dear family, and making sure that at the center of our relationship
Right.
is Almighty God.
That's right.
And what do we mean by that? We say there's a spooky God between
No.
us? No. It's understanding that my wife is from God,
Mhm.
and her understanding that I'm from God.
Mhm.
And so if we abuse the other, we're abusing God.
That's right.
You know, we can't do that. We've got to respect the Creator, respect the God who gave us this life,
Yes.
and understand that, you know, her life don't belong to me and my life doesn't belong to her. We're kind of like on loan to one another. And it's for us to really have the requisite respect, you see, for life.
Yeah.
No wonder in the Nation of Islam, many of the shops were called Respect for Life.
That's right. We've been taught to keep our duty to Allah.
Absolutely.
Duty first to Allah.
That's right.
That's the
right.
first and foremost. But in this world, it's the opposite, Darren. It's the opposite.
Yes.
Everything is this thing, that thing.
Yeah.
God is not in the
Everything
picture.
comes before God.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And if you're from God, why are you not serving? Why are we not taught to serve Him first?
Yeah.
Then everything will come. Everything
Exactly.
will fall into line. But we're not taught that.
So the scripture says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and
That's right.
all of its righteousness. Bear it in mind now that when the disciples asked Jesus, where's the kingdom of God? He said, the kingdom of God is within you.
That's right.
So seek ye first the best part of yourself and all of the righteousness which is contained by nature within us. Seek to cultivate that. And then all things will be added unto you.
That's right.
See, but we go after the things first.
Yes, after the things.
And we're not right within ourselves.
That's right. I'm gonna go to that wonderful book again.
We're asking the question, what is happening to the Black family?
Yes.
Go ahead, sister.
And this is the teachings book, Twitter sayings of the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and this is volume 3B, compiled by Abdul Qiyam Muhammad. And there's lots of there's sections, and this is the marriage and family section. And the first question is,
it's warm. Go ahead.
It's okay. What?
Yes.
The first question is, my husband and I seem to fight about the finances at home all the time. How did you and your wife settle disputes where money was concerned? And the Honourable Minister Liz Farrakhan answered, we didn't have much of that to fight over. So we agreed that we were not going to put ourselves in debt. I was taught to be a man, and I never wanted a man to come to my house to take anything out of my house because I owed on it. So what little money we had, we saved, and when I had enough to buy what I wanted and what we wanted, we bought it. I wasn't ashamed to buy used things until I could afford new. But everything in my house we owned. So there was never an argument over money. And you'll find that if you live within your means and come together as one to plan what you wish to do with your finances, you'll have less arguments and more success. See, these books are so key.
Guidance, beloved.
Yeah, great
guidance. The minister teaches us that the most important thing in life is right guidance.
That's right.
You see, think about all of the things that you currently possess in your house and ask the question, which of those things came without guidance? Whether it's your sofa, whether it's the TV, whether it's the kettle in the kitchen, there's always a user's guide or user's manual which tells you or gives you guidance as to how to get the best or optimum use out of that thing. That's right. How to clean it, what not to do, what to do,
how to maintain it.
You know, absolutely. So dear family, when we speak like this and when we talk about what's happening with the Black family, we want you to appreciate that in the absence of right guidance, then, you know, we're really going to struggle. I'm showing this picture of myself in my early 20s. This was how I looked in my early 20s.
Where's your top?
I wasn't I wasn't wearing a top at that time because I think it serves to illustrate and remind me that when growing up on the mean streets of London in the 70s and 80s, I had no parental guidance and very little family around me that could have provided a framework or structure for my survival. And if the truth be known, it was only by the grace and mercy of Almighty God Allah that I managed to make it to where I am today. And now I'm able to share insights with you, despite the fact that I got caught up in drugs, guns, and violence at a young age, and then had to spend years caught up in the criminal industrial system. See, I deliberately went there on a personal level with myself because when I speak about our youth, I just don't want to come across like one of these holier than thou people who floated down of a holy, righteous cloud, and I've never myself trodden the grounds of hell. No, dear family, I came up from hell. I was one of those delinquent youth. I was one of them crazy ones running up and down on the streets and doing some stuff because I was ignorant, because I didn't know. I didn't know better. And, you know, when I see what's going on with a lot of our young people today, I know that it's the same thing. And I know also that they are being misguided and miseducated into the current condition that they find themselves in. So, dear family, I just want us to think, you know, about what's going on with our young people. Now, this is an image of my 14-year-old grandnephew, Corey Jr. Davis, best known as CJ, who 6 years ago was shot dead in a playground in Moor Walk, Forest Gate at around 3 p.m. on Monday, 4th of September, 2017. He died in hospital the following day. The killers used a shotgun and were seen escaping from the crime scene in a silver Range Rover that, despite CCTV, the police have never found this vehicle. I just want you to think about that. Yeah, a Range Rover caught on CCTV. I've said this before, and I will remind you that way back in the 90s, the statistics said that the average Londoner at that time was being caught on CCTV camera on average 300 times a day. The average Londoner was being caught on CCTV camera in one place or another over 300 times a day. That was in the 90s, family. I mean, the proliferation of cameras have now gone to a whole different level. And this was in 2017, and they've got video footage of the car that was used by the killers, but the police have never been able to find that car. You know, normally, you know, like criminals, they use a getaway car after their robbery or their thing, and then they find the car burnt out somewhere or disposed of, you know, in some other area to where the crime took place. But according to the police, they have never, ever located this vehicle. And that, for me, begins to ring a lot of alarm bells, because when they want to catch people who commit crimes against the state or against police officers, they don't seem to have too much problem tracking people down. But in the case of my grandnephew, you know, so far we'll get deeper into it, because this is right where I'm staying this evening. You know, there is no justice. Family, I'm asking the question, what is happening to the Black family? Because I want you to understand, this is the 14-year-old. And to all intents and purposes, those who took a shotgun and shot him in the head are other Black people, presumably older or even possibly around the same age. I mean, just think about that. What is this fratricidal violence that's taking place in our community? We began by showing you the 24-year-old who is the nephew of one of our brothers, who has just in the last few days been stabbed 3 times, and now he's on the go in, you know, operations, and he may have to have a colostomy bag put on the outside of his body because depending on what's been pierced. I mean, this is, and you know, knife crime and gun crime in the Black community in the UK is like an epidemic proportions. What is happening? You see? Go ahead, sister.
This is another question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It says, when you sat down with your sons and explained to them that this society does not value their lives, what did you tell them? I feel I need to have this talk with my son. And the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan answers, I think a good knowledge of the history of our sojourn will show them the forces that put us in slavery, kept us in slavery, and even to this very moment plot against our true liberation. The books, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Volume 1 and 2, will go a long way in teaching that history.
Okay, but guess what? Guess what Black people do? We do the complete opposite to what the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan has just advised. I've heard them. I've heard our people on talk shows ringing in, proud to say that I've never taught my child about that, because I don't want my child to grow up to be a hater. My God.
And that's the advice.
How dumb and how ignorant can we be not to give the child the history of where we're coming from in order to allow them to be able to navigate where they're going.
That's right.
But you'd be surprised how many of our people adopt this mentality whereby, no, they're not going to talk about it's this thing where you go to Africa and certain parts of the Caribbean and they've got those 3 monkeys, which is supposed to be some symbolic thing that represents us. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Come on, man. What is this? What is this? We have to tell our children the truth
Right,
if
the
we want our
history.
children to be wise. But if we keep them in the dark,
That's right.
and then they're going to walk into some crazy situation, not having a clue. We're going to go deeper into this. Let's continue, dear family. I hope you are all well. You know, let us know if you agree with what we are discussing this evening, and if you think this is a good subject to really be looking at the Black family. This is an interview with my niece, Keisha. This is the mother of Corey, and who I know for a fact did everything within her scope of knowledge, power, and love. Listen to what I'm saying. She did everything within her scope of knowledge, power, and love to try and save her son. But in such a system and a world like this, she was in fact powerless to prevent her child joining the countless numbers of dead or incarcerated young people caught up in the street life. This is a real dilemma that many parents face today, you know, how to raise their children, especially if you understand what's happened in the society and the culture that we're all coming up in and under, whereby parents are really disallowed now to discipline their own children. Right. And if you're not careful, you find yourself being accused of abusing your child just by trying to correct them and keep them on the straight and narrow. Yes. You know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan tells that story about when he was a young boy growing up, and the Black woman was beating her child, and the neighbors called the police. And when the policeman came, you know, he said that, well, the neighbors have called because they heard a child screaming. And she said, yeah, that's right. She said, come inside. And a Caribbean woman, you know, in America. And it was an Irish policeman. And the woman said to the policeman, when you was growing up, did your mother beat you? And he said, yeah. And she said, well, yes, I'm beating mine so that when he go out on the street, you won't have to use that stick or that gun on him. And then she told him, you stand right there while I beat him some more.
Beat his.
No. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying, family? But just think about it, man. Do you know that with children, sometimes there has to be an ultimate sanction? You see, some children you can talk, you can give them extra chores, you can punish them in so many ways. But you know that sometimes with a child, unless you can actually chastise them physically, they're not going to actually understand the ramifications. And then what's happening now? Then they go out on the street. The police can beat them with a baton.
Murder them.
The police can spray them with pepper spray. The police can put handcuffs on them and squeeze their handcuffs so tight that it cuts off their circulation and does nerve damage to their hands for the rest of their life. The police can shoot them dead. But you as a parent not allowed to have an ultimate sanction on your own children.
I'm just going to go to our sister, Gabrielle Mohammed.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, my sister. She says, our children need to know what happened to us. We're so busy running up behind Pharaoh's wealth. And also she says, truth is the answer. Great subject. Thank you, family. Thank you, sister.
Thank you, sister. Beautiful. And so this is an interview that took place with my niece, Keisha, on LBC in this country. And I just wanted to let it play. And I may stop it a couple of times, but I'm going to see if we can just get right through it.
Let's talk about CJ's trajectory then. He was... January 2016, he got expelled from school for what's been described as low-level disruption. He had ADHD. Yeah. These things often go hand in hand.
Yes, they do.
Primary school, he had a classroom assistant.
Just that alone. See, the ADHD, attention deficit disorder. See, when they label our children.
That's right.
You see, and again, you've got to think about who is doing the labeling. Is it in the best interest of our child that they've been labeled in this way? And what does that do to the child? What does that do to the mother? What does that do to the family? How do we then cope with that situation? I just want us to think today.
But he didn't have that at secondary school?
No, he had no. He went from having a classroom assistant, a small place in the classroom where he could actually study, a fur ball like for when he wanted to sit on the carpet in there having reading and stuff, to actually having no support whatsoever in secondary school.
Okay, now I can't quite believe that within 6 months, from January 2016 to November 2016, everything got turned upside down. Let's work out why. Because in November 2016, you took a call from your boy.
Yeah.
And he told you he was being made to sell drugs on the street until 9 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
But that means he'd already fallen into the clutches of this local drug gang, and that I believe was because they hang around literally outside pupil referral units, just like the groomers in the north of England hang around outside children's homes and areas where vulnerable girls might be. They're looking for vulnerable boys like.
And they put our children, once they label them as disruptive, they put them into these so-called P.O.W.E.R, pupil referral units. And these places are like recruitment grounds for criminality, you know, where all the bad children are put. And it's, you know, and it's
a label. Then.
Yeah, exactly. And it just seems to me that it's like you're trying to create a class of people, a category of children that will go down a particular road. That's why you've got some of our people, some of our people say literally the school to prison pipeline. That's the language that some of the activists within our community use, because they recognize that our children have been funneled in a system in a deliberate way.
Sister,
what did she say?
Sister, she works there, isn't it, in the P.O.W.E.R school? Right,
there you go, in the P.O.W.E.Rs. And I've been into many of these P.O.W.E.Rs where I've gone in to teach and speak to the young people, and these are not good places, dear family. These are not good places. Go ahead.
Well, do you remember when our sister who works in the school was saying, you know, having the tags on the children, it just kills my spirit to hear that.
Like a form of enslavement. It's the tag.
Yeah, the tag. Slavery
the brand.
On our babies.
Yes.
It's just horrible.
Yes.
CJ.
Yeah.
What made him vulnerable, do you think?
CJ is a very friendly child. He likes to make friends. He likes to he's an attractive young boy. I say it like that because he likes to meet girls, boys of that nature to socialise with. Of course. The way I see it, when you've been seen as a problem, you want to make friends and you want to become a part of something. When you go to a place that you have no normal dealings with people that are they're bad. Pupil referral units are children that are not being disruptive for numerous different things. He was, like I said, low disruptive behaviour. Yeah. I think he shouldn't have gone there in the first place. That we could have chose different ways to deal with his behaviour. However, he's been put in an area where he didn't know what was going on around him. He didn't know the levels of behaviour issues that these other children have. When you're meeting people that are teenagers outside the school and they're wanting to show you.
You see what Keisha is saying there, where she's saying her son was put into an environment where he didn't know, didn't understand. See, this is again where we, the parents, come in, whereby whatever environment our child is going to go into, we've got to be absolutely conscious of the environment, and if they don't know, we got to make sure that they know.
That's right.
You see, because we can't leave it to the system or the authorities, because again, you know, I know myself and Sister Claudia, we've basically homeschooled all our children, okay, but I know that a lot of you put your children into that system, but I've got to be honest with you and tell you straight up, man, that system was never designed. It was never designed for your child. It was never designed to take your child from that place of kindergarten into a place where that child will come out and be a real giant, male or female, who could then go on to really lead a productive life. You know, I always think about this, you know, like, because some of us, see, when you see Black children coming out of this system and they're doing well and they're successful, it's not the system. It's the absolute genius of that child. Why they're able to survive that structure, which is designed at different stages to stymie them or to stop them actually making progress in life. So when you see these children who actually make it through without too many scars and
without losing their mind
and impediments and detriments, my God, man. See, we look at it all wrong. We think that because again, most of us as parents, we got horror stories that we could tell about when we were in that system. But then we just ignore what we went through, and then we put our children into the same system as if, what did Einstein say? Where you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, if the result, if that was the result we got, which wasn't a good result, why would we think that our children are gonna get a better result? Come on, family, just think about what's been said here.
That they want to become your friend. What child wouldn't want to become a person that's older's friend? Yeah. When you're not being shown anything wrong.
Someone with a car, someone with money in their pocket.
Someone that's saying, for us to the shop, we'll get you a drink.
And they start with little gifts.
Yeah, little drink, fish and chips, or chicken and chips, should I say?
Yes.
See, can somebody out in the street offer our children food? Come on.
No.
Our children, you know, that old school, our children don't take no food from nobody. Don't take nothing from nobody. Do we encourage our children to glorify people who have got a nice big car or money? Or no, beloved. They're no better than you. Just because of some material thing that they have. But unfortunately, this is the traps that are set for our children. And many of our children fall into such traps because as parents, we got to have the foresight to be able to fix our children up in such a way that they're not going to go out in these streets. Some guy approached my son recently, trying to talk to him.
Oh, you look like my friend's son.
I mean, some grown man approached my son and was trying to entice him into some kind of conversation. But what did my son do? He said, okay, and he just carried on about his business. He didn't allow the person to detain him on the road.
Yes.
Because that's what they do. They engage the young person in conversation. And then the next thing you know, all hell breaks loose. I just want us to think, family, go ahead.
But that's what we teach our children, to be aware on the street. Don't be staring at people, but be alert.
Yes.
Watch out, but don't have no conversation with people.
Yeah, just keep moving. Yes. Keep it moving. And especially the girls, teach them when they're walking on the road, don't be meandering and dilly-dally looking at, just move with purpose. Right. Nobody really interferes with you when you're moving with purpose.
Right. But when you're
when you're there, you're trying to attract attention to yourself. Yeah, you'll attract some attention, all right? Understand this, dear family. See, some of us, we don't want to micromanage our children because that's how, telling them how to walk, but we have to.
Yes.
We have to. And we're talking about family today. In the word family is that which is familiar. We've got to become familiar again with our children, with each other, and we've got to appreciate that we're not really a family unless we are looking out for one another in that way. You know, our children, we got to know where they are at all times.
Yeah, they have the, I don't know what it is on their phone.
The tracker.
Yes, but we can see where they are.
Come on, man.
Yeah, wherever they are.
And they track each other.
Yes.
Because they care about each other.
When we say, where's your sister? Whereabouts is she? They can say,
they can say she's here.
Yes.
Come on, family.
And it's one of those after school things. Kids always goes to shop after school.
But I'm not scared yet.
No, you're
from
not
what you're describing.
That's exactly.
I'm not scared yet.
You're just interacting. You're just becoming new friends with somebody, and then that moves to a point where you're supposed to be going to a youth centre after school. You're going to this youth centre, but then somebody says, "Oh, we're all going here," so you go there with everybody else, and then you're seeing lines of stuff that you didn't see before. What I mean is,
what happened to that young brother the other day when he went off because he was coming from somewhere and he went off with somebody else, and he ended up getting arrested. Yes. Same thing.
Yes.
Because they get distracted.
Yes.
Instead of going and doing what they were supposed to do, what they've gone out to do.
Yes.
Now they've gone off with some person who they
Oh, yes.
partially no, slightly no. It's trouble. It's trouble, dear family.
You're seeing drug dealings going on. You're seeing weapons. You're seeing all this money being flashed.
Could you see it as glamorous, perhaps?
He probably could have seen it as glamorous and didn't know how to accept it because
he's a child.
He's a child and he's not been brought into that lifestyle before. All those kind of things are on TV.
Yeah.
So for then somebody to then say to you, well, you've got to go and do this and you've got to go and do it till 9. And
that would be because either he was frightened of what they'll do if he said no, or because they persuaded him that he was somehow in their debt because they'd given him stuff, they'd possibly given him some weed or something like that.
I wouldn't say weed. I probably think it was the fact of
just sweets and food.
Yeah, or just I really couldn't tell you because CJ's not here to tell us.
No, I know that.
That the other way I look at it is the fact that on that night, I was calling him because I know the youth centre closes at 6.
Yeah.
I'm calling him. He's answering the phone, but he's being very abrupt. And he's like, Mum, I'll call you back.
Right.
And then he calls me back and he says to me, Mum, these boys are telling me I need to sell drugs till 9.
Right.
That came out of the blue.
Seriously?
That came literally
How long
had
he been in the P.O.W.E.R unit?
He'd been there, he was there from January, so this is November.
So 6 months later.
No, this is November.
February, March, April, May, June, July. So, yeah, about 8 or 9.
Yeah. So, now...
What did you do?
Exactly. So, I didn't want to be like, what do you mean, or say anything. I just wanted to get to him and know what the situation is. So, I asked him where he was. He said Maryland, and when he said that, he literally put down the phone straight away.
Right.
I phoned a friend and asked that person to, look, CJ said this to me.
I wanted us to listen to this interview, not necessarily because of the clarity of it or anything like that, but just for us to put ourselves in the shoes of a mother trying to raise a young boy without a father, father's not around. And what do you do? How do you navigate this? How do you cope? Because you see, again, this is part of the problem, dear family, where too many of us are raising the children by ourselves because the family is broken down. The relationships have broken down. There's no father, which is quite often the case. But some of the fathers are the ones who are bringing the children up by themselves. But my point is that, you know, we've got to understand, dear family, that this brings about real problems. And there's too many so-called broken homes, too many single-parent families in the Black community. That's got to be mended. That's got to be healed. That we've got to understand that that's a detriment to our nation.
That's right.
You see, that's not something that, oh, because you're married, I'm married, we can just chill out and relax and feel all cozy and righteous.
Yeah.
When we see our sisters and our brothers out there who are single and without viable relationships whereby children are going to come into that type of structure that would allow them and help them to be able to grow without these types of things which our sister is talking about here.
That's right.
Go ahead,
So
sister.
for those who have just joined on, I'm coming from the teachings, the Twitter sayings of the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan by our brother, compiled by P.O.W.E.R. Now, this is a question which, what you was just saying. I grew up fatherless, and I heard you recently talk about the strength of your mother as a single mother. But I wanted to know, did she ever at any time sit and talk to you about your father directly? The Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan answers, as long as I knew my mother before she passed, she never sat down and discussed with me my father. Near the end of her life, she went to an old trunk and brought out a package of his letters to her with a ribbon around those letters. And she gave me one of them that I might read and see my father's handwriting and come to see what kind of mind he had with respect to her. Though I never knew my father, have no real memory of him, I honor him because without his sperm placed at the right time in the womb of my mother, it would not have germinated this life, that I could serve God and serve our people and become the human being that I am yet becoming for the glory of God. Look at the way the minister just,
Beautiful.
how he puts things.
Beautiful. But you see, you know, and again, it's not to blame the sister if she doesn't talk about the father, because oftentimes that absent father, there's a lot of pain that's been left behind there.
Sometimes it's best that we don't say anything.
Don't say anything.
You poison the child.
Right, exactly. Because especially if what you're going to say is negative.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know my head from my tail right now.
Sure.
I just need you to come with me and let's find him. We went round in a taxi until we saw him on a bike. And when I saw him on that bike, I called his name out from the car. I even was telling the Uber driver of this situation, because I couldn't believe what I was being told.
No, you've woken up in a nightmare.
I was literally in a nightmare, and it never ended. So,
what did you do that night? You found him with a rock?
I saw him. He came off the bike. We went behind a bush. I remember it just like it was yesterday. I said, CJ, what have you got? And he opened his rucksack, and I saw little rocks. And
crack cocaine.
Yeah, and heroin. And I'm feeling his hands, and his hands is shaking. I said, don't worry. If there's ever a time in life that you should trust me, it's this moment right now. And he's like, Mum, you don't know. You don't believe you don't know these boys. They're dangerous. I said, CJ, I've got you. And I literally just had to look him dead in the eye. And I just need you to listen to me and follow through. I'm asking. I asked him to ride his bike home, and I ran behind him as he was riding his bike home. It was about, I say, 5-10 minutes away. He got home, he put the bike where I needed him to put it, and he went upstairs. And then I just took him in my arms, went upstairs, and I was just so grateful. The fact that he had the courage to tell me.
Yes.
He knew he was above his head.
Yeah.
And he wanted, the only person that he knows that has got him is me. And he turned to me, and I from that moment on, I just wanted to install in him that anytime you feel like somebody's doing something that you don't want, you can come and tell me. And he never looked back from that moment.
So you took him out of the PR?
Yeah, I took him out the following morning. He never went back.
Home.
Yep.
But within a year, he was dead.
Yeah.
What happened?
He was in a park in the middle of the day.
But you got him out of that world.
He was out of that world, but the thing is, what was going on in that area, knew him, is really rampant. It's going on crazy. Like, certain kids want to be friends with these people, but they don't want to do the actual acts. So you're in between, and I can only say that I couldn't help who CJ became friends with. However, he wasn't that way inclined. Yes, they may have been trying to grasp on, but even in the greater aspect of it, he wasn't a member of a gang. He wasn't trying to be like that. He was listening to me. He's staying at home. He's trying to wait for us to get a move so that we can come out of this area, so he doesn't need to be around such people. So the way I looked upon it is that he's just trying to save face, so to speak.
Okay, I understand that. So he's out of the world of crime, but he's still on the fringes of the people who are committing crime.
Yeah.
And also that day in the park with his friend, possibly, he is seen as someone who's...
Don't forget, family, this is a 14-year-old on the discussion here. 14 years old, and we're talking about, that he's come out of the life of crime. What are you talking about? Exactly. A child, a baby. You see, but it's now, we've been so socialized now into this that now 12-year-olds, we think that a 12-year-old can just be out doing their thing because, several years ago, they started this thing where they were really pushing this youth culture and really trying to say that there's this dividing line between the youth and the elders. You see, but in our African Black culture, the elders and the youth always had a relationship. You see, our philosophy is old men for counsel, young men for war. But the young men don't go to war without first getting counseled by the elders. See, there was always a relationship there, but in this society, that relationship has been severed. Just like they're busy severing the relationship between the Black man and the Black woman. And now we are talking about 12 and 14-year-olds as, like being on the street is some normal thing that, they'd be on the street and it should be perfectly fine, really. But, sometimes it might go wrong because they get into criminality. No, family. Go ahead,
I
sister.
was going to say, but maybe that is normal for people to have their children out on. That's normal, isn't it,
Yeah.
for people? But
Well, in this
some
world,
cases,
in this world, yeah.
Yeah, but for us, we'd be, no, you're not going out.
No.
You're not going nowhere. Keep your backside at home. You're not going anywhere.
I mean, family. We're saying, think what's happening to the black family.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, what's happening in your family? Are you one of these people who really thinks that, yeah, it's fine for my 12-year-old to be out and I don't know where they are, or my 14-year-old to be out?
Yeah.
You know, when my beloved niece was speaking, she said she saw her son on a bike. She didn't say I saw him on his bike. I saw him on a bike. See, these are really important things. You see, imagine your child coming home with a brand new pair of trainers. And you exactly, and you mean to tell me that you're not going to ask?
Take it back.
Where did that come from? What have they got this thing? Where did they get that thing? But whether we appreciate it or not, that's what's going on in society today.
Yes. And if that's with our children, if our daughter or son said, "Oh, so and so gave it to me," let me call up their mum.
Yeah, let me call them mother or
ask
father.
her.
Let's check to make sure that what you're saying is legitimate.
Yes.
And again, some of you will be, oh man, that's so draconian. No, that's called family.
Yes. And as the minister said, in your household, you've got to have a dictatorship. But it's a dictatorship of love. You've got to give them the instructions. Now, you're not going here. You do this. Come in at this time. Yeah, you have to have that. You have to have that. But I'm going to go to some of the points on Sister. Okay. I don't know. It was somebody called N.
N.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I believe Dr. Umar Johnson, child psychologist, coined the phrase school to prison pipeline.
Yeah, he may well have done. He may be the author of that. Yeah.
And our sister Marva, assalamu alaikum, Sister Marva Muhammad.
Sister Cheryl Phoenix in this country uses that terminology a lot as well, because she's very much involved in working with the youth. Go ahead.
Yes. Our sister Marva Muhammad says, and they question our babies in primary school. We must say to our children when they are questioning you at school about your home life, just tell them, ask my mother. Absolutely. Because they love to ask, oh,
yes.
So what's your mum doing?
Yes.
What's your dad? They love to ask those questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Infiltration.
Yes. And this is Jeremiah N-O-I, brother. Hello, sir. My name is Jeremiah. I was just reaching out to you to let you know you changed my whole perspective of life. Thank you very much for the Speaker's Corner in London and continue to inspire.
Praise is due to Allah. Praise is due to Allah. Thank you, dear family. Let's continue.
Affiliated.
Well, A, affiliated, but also B, someone who's got out of it, which is the last thing they want to.
Yeah.
And you still haven't had anything that remotely resembles justice, because although people must know who did it, no one's going to come forward and talk to the police.
No,
how does that make you feel?
It angers me. However, I'm not stopped talking because that was my son, and this situation hasn't ended. My son is dead, and that's the first time I've actually ever said it out of my mouth like that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because I noticed you spoke about him in the present tense when you first came in. It was still CJ is and CJ likes.
So just me saying that right now, I know he's not here. That hurts me beyond. But everything that I planned as a mother, I invested in my son. I loved my son. I showed him everything of how to be a productive member of society. And unfortunately, other things was much stronger than me. And he's no longer here. And I will talk upon that because of how much love I had for him, how much dedication I had to him. The fact that he had ADHD was one thing. I just made him know that he was unique, and that Richard Branson apparently has it. Justin Timberlake, other members, and they're fine in life. So that was never an issue for me. The fact of what was going on around him was the biggest issue, and that's why I drew to education, I drew to social workers, I drew to the police, I drew to my housing, because I needed to get him out of that situation by any means necessary.
Yeah, you did, and he just got dragged back in again.
Well, yeah.
There's not a lot you can do. Really? By the time he's that age? Well, you can't lock him in a box.
No, you can't. You've got to, that's the whole point. You want a child to be who he's supposed to be. However, you're supposed to protect them. And again, him being in a park in the middle of the day is supposed to be fine. So really what you've got to look at is that
imagine being in a children's playground. That's supposed to be a safe place.
That's right. That's right.
But this is how brazen this type of criminality is now, where they could feel that they could just come up in broad daylight, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and shoot and kill a child. And they shot both him and his friend, but his friend survived. He got hit in the head by a shotgun blast. I mean, this is the reality of what we're living now, dear family.
these criminals, as we see them, are being so brazen that they really have no care. We have to be able to cripple that situation. We have to be able to get that under rein. For murders to be happening during the day in a children's park next to schools.
Beggars belief. How did you get the call?
My father FaceTimed me because it was literally 1.5 minutes away from my dad's house. This is all in my neighborhood. This is in my neighborhood. So he wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. That's what you need to understand.
Yeah,
he was actually at the point of when he passed, he was doing everything I needed. He was just waiting for us to move out of the area. Because I told him, what's going on out there, son? I know it isn't you, but things can happen, like it did.
The police have made no arrests. They think that the vehicle, don't they, this Range Rover, could be the key to cracking the case. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that there's somebody listening to this radio programme at this moment in time who knows more about this story than you do. The vehicle, it's a grey Range Rover Sport stolen from southwest London on the 24th of August, but they're still looking for it because presumably there might be evidence that would help identify the murderers of your son. So we'll share all those details via social media. We'll put them up on the LBC website. Crime Stoppers are, as always, offering complete anonymity to anybody who knows anything about this. We've got the identification number of the car, the engine number of the car. So somebody somewhere in a scrapyard or in a forecourt
will know something.
They will, won't they?
Yeah. And there's a 20,000 reward for any information that leads to a prosecution.
I just want us to think, dear family, and just again to emphasize that my niece, Keisha, who you've just been listening to, she was trying everything to try to safeguard her son. She came to me, she brought him to me, and he spent a whole day with me because at that time I was working in a young leaders academy, and she wanted him to become a part of that. And I said, sister, bring him. And I spoke to him, I spoke to Corey. I said, I gave him so many pointers and told him how important it was for him to just bring himself, extricate himself out of that environment and come, because this is the place where he could actually learn about himself, where he can grow and develop and fulfill all of his dreams. He was so excited. I was so pleased that day, because he said definitely he's returning the following week. And, Keisha again was excited. She was going to be bringing him along. Never saw them the following week. And then several weeks later, we get the news. You see, family, and to some degree, I take responsibility too. You see, because we have to be able to do more. This thing where it takes a village to raise a child. See, it can't just be on mum. Because she was struggling to, I think the radio presenter just said you can't lock him in a box. And that's true. You see, but you've got to be able to turn to other support mechanisms and forget, we talk about, the system let her down. Of course it let her down, because that system was never there, was never geared to assist her and help her in the first place, family. But we who are family are there. We're supposed to be there for one another, man. Go ahead, sister.
Well, that's why it's so important to build a community, because there are people that don't have anyone, that don't have any family here, or their family may live abroad, but we need to build our community.
And that's why I I don't have no time for those people who have a problem with the Nation of Islam trying to establish something that we can call our own.
That's right.
Shops and schools and community where we all want to be together. And that's so important. That's so critically important. That's how you protect children.
That's right.
When they've got an environment that you can immerse them in, and they've got uncles and aunties and, you know, all of the family members around. But in the absence of that, then we're leaving them vulnerable to a world which is predatory when it comes to Black children, man. Dear family, this video footage of the Range Rover driven by the killers of CJ, which according to the police was stolen sometime before the killing, but according to the Metropolitan Police, with their modern and sophisticated ability to monitor everyone and anything that moves in London, this vehicle has never been seen again and has simply disappeared without trace, according to them. Go ahead.
Well, that's so strange because it's in the bus lane. You know what it's like in this country. Once you get in the bus lane.
Well, exactly.
Terrible.
You know, who filmed this?
Yes, exactly. Well, yeah.
Who filmed this?
Yeah.
You know, they got it
cameras.
on film.
Yeah.
This is the vehicle.
Listen, when those cameras, you go through those speed cameras, sometimes it actually has your image.
Absolutely. I know. But, you know, but according to them, this vehicle has never been seen. Dear family, let me just read a little bit here.
What are you reading from?
This is an article from the BBC News, and it's dated the 28th of February 2019, and it says Corey Junior Davis, the gang grooming that killed a 14-year-old. It says the mother of a 14-year-old boy shot dead in gang violence in London has said a report into the scale of the problem confirms everything she experienced with her own son. Corey Junior Davis, known as CJ, died in September 2017 after an apparent gang-related drive-by shooting in East London. Police are still hunting his killers. A serious case review later found that he and his mother, Keisha McLeod, were failed by local agencies that could have protected him from a gang life. Because she went to all of these agencies, she appealed to them. She even went to the council where she lived to try to get moved from that area, transferred to a different area. Nobody assisted her, okay? And ultimately, her son paid that price. So that was that was in 2019, that particular article. Here's another article in the Standard. It says Corey Davis, police make arrest in connection with death of 14-year-old. This one says police investigating the death of Corey Junior Davis has made an arrest 6 years after he was shot and killed. Corey was shot in the head in the playground in Moor Walk, Forest Gate on September the 4th, 2017. The 14-year-old, who was known as CJ, had been with a friend at the time when he was attacked at the East London playground. He was taken to a nearby hospital but died the following day. Years on from his murder, police arrested a 24-year-old man on Monday. The man has since been released under investigation. You see, look, when you get arrested for, suspected murder or attempted murder, anything like that, you're not getting released. Okay, so when you hear that the person has been released, they've got nothing on that person. So I don't even know why they put that out there like that, because you're certainly not going to be given bail on that type of charge, especially as a Black person. Okay, you're going to be remanded in custody. That's where you're going to sit and wait until the investigation is complete. So I just wondered, why they were putting this out when they did, and that was the 16th of March 2023. And then finally there's this in a publication called My London, and this one is dated 3rd of March 2024, and it says killers of boy 14 shot dead in Newham playground are being shielded by friends. Okay, so this is the latest on the situation with my nephew, Corey. It says the killers of a boy shot in the head in a playground in London more than 6 years ago are still being shielded by friends, a hearing was told. Corey Junior Davis, 14, was gunned down in broad daylight at a playground in Newham, East London in September 2017. Despite ongoing investigations, recent arrests, and the offer of a £20,000 reward by police, no one has yet been charged with the teen's murder. Corey, known to friends and family as CJ, was said to have been socializing with a friend when he was blasted in the head by someone armed with a shotgun at a playground in Forest Gate on the afternoon of September the 4th, 2017. Dear family, I just hope we can really appreciate that as families, you know, we're going to have to do better, because these are not isolated things. These are things that are happening almost on a daily basis, on a weekly, monthly basis, where our young people are getting stabbed or shot and killed. They're getting groomed into gangs where they're getting into drug dealing and all manner of illicit and dangerous activity, which is destroying the family. You know, my niece has really suffered. Obviously, she continues to suffer because she's lost her child. She has a daughter, but she's lost her son. And I can't even begin to imagine what that must feel like. I lost another nephew. My brother's son died many years ago. He was knocked over by a vehicle in the street when he was 9 years old and died in a road traffic accident.
And your niece?
And my niece, who was in her 20s, she passed away in Salt Lake City in the United States. You know, so we know a little bit about these tragedies and this pain. And I'm just saying, dear family, that coming from the perspective of our children, of our youth, we have to really step up in terms of our level of diligence when it comes to what they're doing, how they're being raised, who they're associating with. And we can't afford to try to make our children our friends. We have to first and foremost be parents and guardians and protectors, you know, of our young people, because it's very, very unfortunate. But if we don't, then again, we're looking at the unraveling of the Black nation, even though we may not readily see it like that. That's what it represents, because who are the youth? They're the future. You know, it's like I always talk about the young people. I see them. I was looking at some school children just today, Black children, coming out of the school with their trousers down and their underpants on show. And, you know, whenever I see that, I think, my God, as a parent, because I've got a young boy in the house, you know, he can't walk around like that. I don't think he would ever want to be honest with you. His mentality is just not there. It's not about, you know, having this sagging or whatever they call it. He don't want to do that. But my point is that if he wanted to do that, I would have to intervene and try to educate him as to the nonsensical nature of walking around with your trousers sagging down, where it makes it uncomfortable for you to walk properly,
and what it represents,
and the origin of it.
Yes.
I would have to. But it seems to me that some of us as parents now, it's almost like we're scared of our own children, and we're so determined for them to be on the same level of us and friends that we won't correct them. It's not good, dear family. And we you know, please understand that myself, Sister Claudia, we're not talking about abusing our children, man. We're talking about loving them enough to want to tell them the truth and to guide them in a truthful and a righteous way. My niece tried everything, man. She tried, and unfortunately, it wasn't enough because she didn't have enough support. And I've got to say to the brothers who are impregnating women, sisters, and then running in the opposite direction and leaving these sisters to raise the children by themselves. Brothers, we really got to check ourselves, man. We really got to think about what we're doing because the chances of your child surviving that reality and making it and coming out and being a successful, productive human being, it's in the balance, you know, because the child actually needs you and needs mom and needs that unit to be together. And for the both of you to be working together with that child, on that child, for the benefit of that child and the benefit of the future. I'm appealing to us, man. Because in the absence of a strong family, there is no nation.
That's right.
And we're not going to make it being an attachment of another man's world. We have to have our own nation. It begins with an autonomous family, community, nation. See? Because otherwise we can't compete with those who have nations and those who are represented by nations. I hope we get it, dear family, because it's really, really critically important that we stem this tide. You know, this is a plaque that our niece was at the unveiling of. They put a plaque up somewhere for Corey, and it says, in loving memory of our unforgettable dancing star, because he was a good dancer and he was a good footballer, you know, like so many of our young people, man. They got skills, they got talents. All they need is a bit of guidance and coaching to allow them to fulfill their potential.
That's right.
Nothing wrong with these children. And stop allowing your enemy to label the children as well. HDH, whatever, ADHD and all this kind of stuff, putting these labels on them. You know, he was born on the 29th of December, 2002, and they turned off the machine on the 5th of September, the day after he was shot, 2017. 14 years old, family. That's just horrendous. Go ahead, Sister Claudia.
This is another question. How can our young brothers and sisters that struggle to navigate through life to be successful if they are devoid of good examples where they grow up at? And the Honourable Minister Liz Farrakhan answered, we always need good examples to pattern our lives after. Mother is the first teacher, and through our mothers, we learn our values. Most of the time, we're looking outside of the home for somebody to be our hero. But your hero, oftentimes, is the mother that brought you into the world. That, with even limited knowledge, but some life experience, taught us values. She may not have been perfect in her example, but she was perfect enough for us at that stage of our development. But the more you are taught, then you begin to reflect the values of the teachings that you are studying. If you didn't have a good example, take the best of what mother did, the best of what father did, the best of what grandma and grandpa taught you, then stand on that and grow into that which Jesus the Christ, Muhammad the messenger, and the prophets taught. They have been and are the best examples for human development.
Praise be to Allah.
To
Beautiful. And you see, dear family, it's just important again to appreciate that what we've been through as a people is that they destroyed our families.
That's right.
And it wasn't destroyed accidentally. It was destroyed by design. It was destroyed deliberately. We were not allowed to marry and to have that cohesiveness. And the black man was used as a stud horse to make babies and then basically leave them, and the babies would be put into the fields with their mothers.
Yes.
And that went on for 400 years. You see, and whether we appreciate it or not, an element of what we see happening today is called genetic memory. Many of us, we don't plan to impregnate the sister and then run, but it's part of our very DNA now. And once we know this reality, then we have to change this reality.
That's right.
Because a lot of the things that we are currently doing, it's unconscious. Okay, but we have to become conscious of our actions, of our behavior.
That's right.
And, you know, sisters, I heard the minister say one time that not only do you carry us for 9 months in your womb, but you've carried us for 400 years on your backs. Because far too often, the burden, the weight is left on the sisters. But brothers, we got to step up, man. We got to change this thing up because the black man is fast disappearing as an entity. The black man is becoming almost invisible. When I say the black man, I want you to look at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because that's a black man. Why is he a black man? Because he's controversial. Because there's a verse that this world runs on. There is a narrative which is a false and a fake narrative, which is white supremacy and black inferiority. But here you have a black man who is so-called controversial. Why? Because he goes against, he is contrary to that verse. He is contrary to that narrative. Okay? He brings an alternative narrative, which is the black man is God. Not no rhetoric, but reality in terms of who we are. We are children of God.
Did you read this question?
No, I didn't read it, but go ahead. Go ahead, Sister Claudia. Go ahead.
The question is, I've seen mentorship programs started for black boys many years that start and stop so fast. How can we establish long-term mentorship programs for our black boys, and what should at the root and the core of them to make them last? And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, most mentorship programs are funded by outside forces that do not want God mentioned in the mentoring process.
Yes.
This automatically limits the growth of those whom you are mentoring. The scriptures teach, ye are all God's children of the Most High God. How can you mentor a young God without connecting the nature of that young man, made in the image and likeness of God, to the God who originated his life? He's a spiritual being and becomes a mental and intellectual being. But if you don't feed his spirit, you'll start, you'll stop, and the mentoring will cease, because you, the teacher, have run out of what it takes to mentor that child.
Wow. And it's so right what the minister says. And again, imagine there's so many of us, we mean well.
Yes.
We mean well.
Yes.
But the mentoring is devoid of that spiritual component of God.
Oh God.
So it can only go so far. It's limited in its scope. God is unlimited, beloved.
That's right. That's right.
You see, and then again, what the minister touched on at the beginning of the answer there, in relation to so many of us are seeking funding from the enemy.
Outside, that's right. You don't care.
And we expect the enemy to fund what we want to do, not appreciating that he's going to set limitations on what you can do or what you can teach within that. And when he's ready to pull the funding,
absolutely. Then what do you do?
If he's made you, he can break you. So we have to rely on ourselves.
God.
And we have the resources in the Black community.
That's right.
We are rich collectively.
That's right.
But how many of us would be willing to put our hands in our pockets, man? Put our money where our mouth is and back those who are willing to go forward and be in the vanguard of teaching our youth and developing for our youth and putting programs together for our youth, which are autonomous and independent of our enemy. Because this is what's got to happen.
That's right.
You know, family, even now in the UK, there are many people, many Black people in the UK who cannot remotely conceive of an independent Black community or because anything we do, we've got to invite our enemy in. The enemy's got to be right up in the front. It don't work. God helps the child who has his own.
Yes.
Everybody has their own. The Chinese have got their own. The Asians have got their own. Everybody, the Jews have got their own. In Earl's Court, there's a community of Australians. Everybody, they stick together. But it's nothing wrong with sticking with your own. Because when you've got your own, then you can interact with everybody else. But you've got to have your own first.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Think of how they've made this world, that you always think you have to qualify yourself with these people to do anything.
Come on, man.
You always, to do this, you've got to go through them.
What's your qualifications?
No, we've got a God, we've got a living God. Oh my goodness, isn't it? Every step we take with these people, you have to go through this way. You have to. They want us to acquire Satan's mind.
And not only do you have to go through this way, but what you'll find is that almost anything you want to do, they want to question your past.
Of course.
You see, they got to know everything about you.
That's right.
Because they're so afraid that you may be coming from a source which is independent.
Which is God.
Come on, family.
Come on.
So, dear family, thank you. Thank you so much. I pray that, again, something that we said this evening is of benefit. I pray that, it made sense, because it's just a particular angle that we came from this evening, really looking at the youth and some of the things which going on. I made it very personal because it's about my nephew and my niece and the nephew of one of our brothers.
But we're all family. That's the point.
Absolutely. But what I'm trying to show you in that is that how it's all connected, we're all connected.
That's right.
And whatever you're going through, we're going through. And whatever we're going through, you're going through.
That's right. Your children is our children. Our children are your children. We're all connected. We're all family. That's why we have to look out for each other.
Absolutely.
But thank you very much, Brother Leo.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you.
It was quite a heavy, it's sad, that's the reality, but we have to fight to build this kingdom of God. We cannot do anything without God. It's not even a choice thing in life.
That's right.
You cannot live without God.
That's right.
So thank you very much. Thank you all for tuning for your time. We don't want to take it for granted. Thank you so much for your time. And we pray for those who are sick. We pray that Allah, God, will heal them.
That's
Let's
right.
get on how to eat to live. Let's
That's
really look after this.
We'll talk about how to eat
Yes,
to
we'll
live
do
soon
that.
again.
Yes, let's really look after ourselves to get through this time of trials.
And what's today?
Oh yes,
Sister Claudia?
today is our last meal, everyone.
3-day fast,
3-day
family.
fast,
Come on,
3-day
go for
fast.
it.
Let's
Go for it.
Yes, let's join together. Do it all
3-day
together.
fast. Let's
Yeah.
try and do this one
That's
together.
right. That's right.
Okay, so that next Thursday you can bear witness and you can say that, yep, after the Imagination show last Thursday on the 6th of June, I had a beautiful meal and then I never ate again until Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening.
Yes,
let us know. Come on, go for it, family. You can do it.
That's right.
You can do it. And when it comes to your health, it's a wonderful, wonderful, powerful exercise. And when you can go 3 days,
that's right.
What it does for your mind, what it does for your spirit, it lets you to know that you are in charge of you. And that you're not governed by your lower desires. You're not governed by your appetites. You're not governed by hunger or thirst or greed. By the way, it's not a dry fast. You can drink all throughout the fast, but it's just stay away from the solid food.
Yes, the food.
If you can do it, you know,
No,
try and do one day. We know you can.
We can all do it. Got to show that God is in us. And that's the start of it. When you can deprive yourself from something natural, then you can feel that power of God coming through. Power
comes up in you, man.
Absolutely. And
family.
Just keep going. But don't forget, tune in to NOI.org every Sunday. Right. Don't forget 24/7. Tune into the Final Call Radio. And don't forget, subscribe to the Final Call newspaper to get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But thank you all for coming. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Brother Leo, for your time. I don't want to take this for granted. You know, we mustn't take each other for granted. So thank you very much. May Allah, God bless you all. May He guide and protect you all, and stay safe, stay strong, feed on the word. Let's keep the righteousness, feed on righteousness, because you are what you eat spiritually and physically.
Mentally as well.
Yes, and mentally.
Thank you, family.
Take
care.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.